Well, good morning, everyone. Want to talk about long wires and these supposedly dipole feed shortwave antennas. I don't do ham gear, not interested. Just trying to get good shortwave reception. Been doing it for 18, 20 years. Don't have the answers. But I'm going to show you a few things here. I'll start with the new. Here's speaker wire I got on Amazon, 100-foot roll for $13. Split the speaker wire into it the way you can. You know, it comes in two wires. 15 feet on each side. I just strung it up here on these bushes. And the other 100 feet I didn't bother cutting yet because I'm not sure if it was going to be any good or what. Then, here's the long wire. I sit on this swing when the sun's down here in the evening and listen. 100-foot wire goes through a ring out there with a block of wooden rope on it so that it can slide back and forth and not break it. That's been up there for probably 10 years or more. And anyway, I always thought the long wires were good. In fact, that's my latest version. I had a 200-foot one way up in the top of a birch tree, like 20 feet up, coming from the front yard, along the end of the house, through my TV tower, which is above the peak of my house, about 10 feet on a ring, out to the backyard. And I did it that way, and kind of like a N feed and an inverted L. Had it out to that birch tree out there, and let, you know, a big piece hang down as well. Anyway, here's this dipole speaker wire. I just braided together, put it on a temporary clip so I can clip it on the antenna. I'll make it more permanent, a smaller clip that clips the antenna better. That's too big to make a tight connection. I'll put a 3.5 millimeter jack. So I usually sit on that swing over there, and but this is how I get the signal into my house. I just clipped it on this little 26 millimeter silicone wire because I don't want to break the seals in my window. I'm up here in Canada, it's cold. Never did drill a hole to go in the house, but way too much static in the house. So let me show you here. Excuse me for a minute here. I just have that silicone wire up through the screen and the seal, and I'm going to talk to you about this Balun here in a minute. Just going to this SMA cable, because the interference in my house is absolutely atrocious, ruins the signal terribly. So that's the way I get it into the house, is I keep it short and inside the house, get it in there to the SMA cable to the table, and that works really good. This dipole works better than my long wire, any of my long wires. Don't ask me why. Now, 15 feet off either side on this one. 100-foot lead. I just have it laying all over the deck here, run it across the tops of the windows to get it up off the snow to get in that window. Now my long wire goes out the end of this. I just wrapped it on a stick. That's all that holds it up there. And I have my 1/4-inch jack and my clip to my antenna. That's, like I said, that's been out here for 10 years. And I've had them 200 feet. That's 100 feet. And it works. I thought it always worked good as I could get it. And I've used those Baluns, they call them now. These, the big ones, they used to call them Longwire impedance modules. And they were like $100 back in the day. They had a ground on the side. There's these mini Baluns now. I've tried all the black box kind. And I've clipped ground wires on them, and they've never helped make the signal better for you, ever. Not once. All the kind I tried, and they're 9-to-1. I've never seen how these make the reception or signal better. The big black box ones, none, ever, not once. And so, you can waste your money on them if you want to. I've tried 7 or 8 different kinds. These little cheap ones I got these because they make a good connection to an SMA cable. They're supposed to be 9-to-1, and you can just stick your wire in the end, push that, and it locks it in. Some say you can make that a dipole, or that have a wire going out each side, like the dipole I have out here, and just run a wire into each side. That worked terrible. Some say you put the long wire in this side, or the end of your dipole in this side, and hook a ground on the other side, and that made the signal worse. I have an iron ground rod driven into the ground, and I had one of those MJF tuners, that's supposed to boost your signals. I think it's an MJF 1020C or something. 50/50. Sometimes it helps. It's got the gain control and stuff to amplify stuff. Even that has a ground wire on it. When I connect a ground wire to it, it always made the signal worse. It never helped. It never took static down. I don't know why. So I'm using this just to get the SMA cable connection to my table. So anyway, I don't know why this dipole 15 feet out each way works better. Seems to be slightly stronger signal, and definitely less static most of the time. Now that's very high off the ground, is it? Tied in those bushes. In fact, I originally had it hanging up over here, way up in the air, and coming to my deck. And it wasn't noticeably different than my Longwire a little bit. When I put it on the bushes here, everything's running north to south orientation. My Longwire is everything. This here too. It works better here. Don't ask me why. And then I made one out of that little silicone wire to get through my window without hurting the seals. I made one identical to this, 15 feet off at either side, with a 30-foot to a 26 gauge silicone wire to a clip on my radio. Laid it right on the ground here. And that worked better than this, no matter when it was up high or on the bush. That was the best. And I said, that's great. So I can wind that little wire and put it in my radio case when I go somewhere. So I made one for the barn, the workshop. And I put it on the ground in the exact same place. And I made it about 20 or 22 feet off each side, thinking maybe a little longer might be better. And it didn't work as good as the one for 15 feet. And I know there's calculations about all that stuff. and I've watched 1,000 videos on shortwave antennas, but see, it's usually these guys that are into ham stuff, and they start talking about counterpoise and grounds, and because they're transmitting and whatever else. I mean, I just have a Grundig radios, satellite, the Eaton Elite Executive, Texan PL 330s, Texan 310 ETs, XH data, small portable radios, and that's all I use. So I'm just trying to get a good signal. I'm not trying to transmit anything. And then they get into talking about insulators on the end of your wires and all that stuff. I don't think for shortwave it means baloney. These Baluns of the 7 or 8 kind I tried, nothing has made it better. Even if I ground them, even with a counterpoise, all of that stuff, I've cut them to lengths, they've said. For me, nothing worked. These two things work. This seems to be the best, this dipole thing, after about 18 or 20 years playing around with it. So anyway, I don't know why all that is, but all I'm trying to tell you is I think I want to save you some money. I've tried everything everybody said on just about every video. Baluns. I think these are just a royal waste of money. They've never helped anything. In fact, when I hook them up, it always makes my signal. I notice it actually gets worse. That's my opinion about all of the types I've tried. Ground wire, no ground wire. Doesn't fix that. So anyway, try the speaker wire thing, 15 feet. Make it 20 or 22 and then cut it off. Try it. You know what I mean? And until you get back to 15 feet off to either side. My 22-foot one wasn't as clear or sharp as, again, sitting right on the ground. The first one I made, 15 feet out either side, sitting on the snow on the ground, worked better than the one suspended. Now, why is that? Can somebody tell me that? Anyway, good luck.